Today is the 4th of July, 2022. So, well, before I begin, because especially with today, Happy Independence Day in 2022. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, save us that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. So, happy 4th of July in the year 2022. So, I paid attention in choir. Yeah, I did. In Joyful Noise, my choir teacher, Mrs. Sauer. I don't know whether or not she ever saw that coming. Back when I was a child, although maybe she could have. Maybe, I don't know. Though I can make a joke because her husband taught handbell, so you know, there's that. And so go to my website, www.susanmeeling.com, which is the same as www.ladydorybell.com. Pun intended, handle, okay? And so make sure to subscribe to my official YouTube channel, like my official YouTube videos. And if you're going to leave a comment, make sure to have etiquette and respect, as well as share the links to my official YouTube videos. So today is the 4th of July. I'm going to go over a few different things. So I had an experience, well, I've had a few experiences. I shouldn't say just one experience, because I've had a few. I've had a few. So and the irony, I've had more experiences in regards to sights of UFOs is what they're called, and or dealings with in regards to, than I have in what's supposed to be considered the consenting adult lifestyle. I don't know if that's something to brag about, you know, because there's the military. I don't know if that's really something to brag about, because depends on. However, I've dealt with a few things, and that's not even taking in consideration my experiences regarding the oceanic waters, and definitely have had more experiences in that, and not even in, and then, but you know, the irony is kind of both ways, because of not having that many enjoyable times. There hasn't been that luxury for me. So I guess maybe there's kind of certain similarities and ironies to that in a certain sort of way. And so it is what it is. However, in regards to the year 2004, I had a situation in my backyard in San Antonio, Texas. And so I was outside. I had arranged a tent. It was a white, grayish, silverish, and red tent. and I had a white and red sleeping bag, and I had arranged a vision quest in a more modernized sort of way. It was San Antonio, Texas, so there's 2 seasons, hot and hotter. Sometimes there's a 3rd season of hot as hell. And so again, I reiterate, there's purgatory in the state of Texas. Literally, there is a creek called Purgatory Creek in the state of Texas. And so, just pointing that out there. So, it is as it is, nonetheless. It is hot, it is. So, arranging that as to the vision quest, that was pretty simple because you do it through heat, as far as that. And so, in the reference to, I think it was the 2nd day, or the 48-hour point, as to my vision quest. And I had seen something floating outside, and it was one of those, okay, but it was a physical object in comparison to an energetic being. So I was born and raised in New Jersey, and I grew up attending Old Tenant Presbyterian Church. And I've had visions of various spiritual beings, and so on and so forth. I've explained to people in person, face-to-face in person, as well as through my official YouTube channel, as to having met the spirit of General George Washington. His private office building is behind the church at Old Tenant Presbyterian Church on the grounds on the hill. So as a child, I grew up seeing that. And I didn't grow up attending Renaissance fairs. So I didn't grow up in that sort of environment, in that reference. And so I made attempts to explain to people that I had known when I was a child, and then they'd ask me what television show or movie I had seen. And I didn't really watch that many movies to begin with, and what movies I did watch were usually Disney. So it was that. And so the situations as to the backyard in the area of New Jersey where the house was that I grew up in, saw a bunch of stuff and had a whole bunch of experiences regarding that. And a lot of, it was as it was. So then in reference to the oceanic waters, well, I had a whole bunch more experiences out from the Atlantic area coastline of the state of New Jersey, which is not a area that is easy to swim in at all. Usually people, when the summertime, they go into maybe, if they feel adventurous, they'll get about waist high. If they are totally adventurous, most people don't actually go swimming out in that vicinity realistically. It's just kind of, oh, well, there's the water and it's pretty. There it is. That's the ocean. And that's pretty much, to a degree, in some ways, the Atlantic. The further south you go, more likely to go in the water and about, shoulder high, but not really in the New Jersey area, unless you're training. If you're training, then you swim to a degree. And so had some experiences as a child. I had explained this to scuba divers I had once known in person, face-to-face in person, because that's the only way you can scuba dive. You can only get scuba diving lessons as to how to actually work with the equipment as far as the different certifications to then go in the water in person, face-to-face in person. If you do things via video, in my opinion, you don't get that education that you need at all. It's a personal opinion, and because of my personal experiences, yet again, far more, because I earned 26 scuba diving certifications. So, if my ex-sister-in-law had thought that that was how I earned my scuba diving certifications. No. I actually did that on my own, by myself. I actually was not in a relationship, and that was not how they got a tip. Because I didn't even get into that. That just not the same whatsoever as far as some of the stuff I had learned over the years. And so I actually had paid for my classes, and I did my homework as far as I was concerned, and then I took all of my gear as far as the work was concerned, and I applied it towards the work that I was already accustomed to doing as a child and a young teenager. So I've had a lot more experiences than in any aspect that is considered, I guess, the consenting adult sexual aspect. I've had far more defense situations as to the land areas above sea level than I have ever had in those references, by far. And I only refer to that because of a Facebook message from my original Facebook account that my ex-sister-in-law had made certain commentary, and it was, really? Okay. This coming from the female who willingly talked in front of Grandpa Nichols and Grandma Nichols in their house about her and her husband being in the swinging lifestyle. Granted, okay, she's much older than I am biologically, and it's just one of those, okay, I know that Grandma and Grandpa Nichols were around in the 1960s and 1970s. I'm not ignorant to that time frame regarding the 1960s and 1970s as to certain relationship aspects. However, not ignorant to that. So, it's just the facts. So, in 1996, I had been invited to attend Marine and Science Technology School, and the only way to take the testing was for my biological mother and biological father to sign the emancipation paperwork. That's just the way it was at that point in time. And so I've already explained as to how the move to Illinois occurred, as well as the school situation. So started at Marlboro High School in comparison to Marine and Science Technology School with the Navy attachment. Some situations occurred at Marlboro High School, as well as some military dressed individuals showed up to the house. And then I started attending St. John Vianney High School. And after a while, there were certain situations, and then all of a sudden we moved from New Jersey to Illinois. So, just pointing that out there, I was working on my creation of the underwater travel system at that point in time. A multitude of factors regarding more than just the pretty portion of the travel system part. I know better. And so, so for the understanding and that reference, you have to go through certain security check areas, and there's certain what have yous to an airport. And so when I was creating my underwater travel system, I wasn't just looking at the pretty little flights, because of my personal experiences and knowledge and understanding and comprehension. And so, just one of those particular factors that it is as it is. So in the second time that I was emancipated from my biological mother and biological father was when I was in Illinois before I went to the Army. And then, I refused, after I woke up from my coma after my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, I refused to live with my biological mother, biological father, though most importantly in regards of not wanting to be around or live with my biological little sister. In those particular references in my biological mother, there were a few problems as far as my childhood. My pastor from Old Tenet Presbyterian Church had said in the most politically correct way possible, your parents were strict. So for those who have been enlisted, especially, and then have ever spoken with a chaplain, obviously an officer, okay? And so this pastor knew me in the 1980s and 1990s, and in the year 2021, his words were, and your parents are strict. So for those who are enlisted or have been enlisted, it doesn't matter which branch or division, it doesn't matter if you were active duty, it doesn't matter if you were National Guard, it doesn't matter if you were reservist, it doesn't matter if you're a veteran. If you have been enlisted and you understand how certain officers and MOSs are, in the year 2021, a pastor and chaplain in the Army, so he's a pastor in the civilian sector and a chaplain in the Army. I knew him in the 1980s and 1990s when he had been in the Army as a chaplain. In 2021, he said, I remember your parents, they were strict. So for those who don't understand that, such as dependents or civilians or chief warrant officers or officers, that translates to my biological mother and my biological father were known to be so abusive that they can't believe that DYFS didn't do anything as to those particular problems. And when DYFS did get involved, because of the way the situations were, because they utilized the religious aspects to try to hide behind, as far as a few other factors, they also were, that way. If you've met them and had any interactions, well, you know. And so I was a child, and my biological little sister was the favorite because she actually looks Asian in comparison and does what they prefer in comparison. And so she doesn't have actual intelligence, though. That's the kicker. She doesn't have any actual knowledge, because in order to be intelligent, you have to have knowledge that you understand. And so all she knows is the epitome of the MK Ultra for wording, for that clarification. So in the year 2003, while I had, at that point in time in 2003, I had a subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain from my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000 when I was in basic training. However you view that, you take that in consideration. For those who went to basic training, I had not called my biological mother or my biological father on the phone. And my biological mother worked at McHenry County Government Center in Woodstock, Illinois at the time. You can do the math as far as that hypothetical in any capacity, because anybody who's been a drill sergeant, how is it if a parent contacts you? And so you can think about that. And if you've met my biological mother and she's ever, pestered you for information, well, you know how that can be. And so just think as to, I was in basic training and I had refused to contact, because I was actually having fun. I was actually doing what I preferred, which I said I was going to go and do, and all that sort of stuff. And she thought it was a phase. Yeah, she thought it was a phase that I was going to be in the military. Yeah, she thought it was, even though Old Tennant Presbyterian Church talked with, and talked about talking with the spirit of General George Washington, though also got along with the chaplain as to the pastor. Asked a bunch of questions about the military, but that was when I was in elementary school, and she thought that was a phase. She thought it was a phase when each year of elementary school, by the way, each year to her, she thought was just a phase, although I don't think she realized that, kindergarten is a phase, and then first grade is a phase, and then second grade is a phase, and third grade is a phase, and so on and so forth. I don't think she put two and two together to get that arithmetic. And so by the time of when Marine and Science Technology School had invited me to that whole, and so, to her, even after, kindergarten all the way through 8th grade, each year she thought it was just a phase. It's a really long phase to be talking about and working towards doing certain things. It's really a long phase. So I don't know. I think there's a mental health disorder as far as accepting that. And then when I was upset because I was at St. John Vianney High School instead of, Marine and Science Technology School, then she said I had an attitude problem because I knew where I actually needed to be and wanted to be and preferred to be. But she thought it was a phase, so then there was Illinois, and then when the Army, as far as that was concerned, then she tried to say it was just a phase, and she didn't know where it came from, despite all of those other prior years. So it's just 13 years of me talking about going to the Army or the military. But according to her, that was just a phase. Now, conversely, cheerleading. I don't know how that, intelligence. Just throwing that out there, you keep that in mind. So you just think about that. All of you who ever believed my biological mother, and all of you who ever believed my biological little sister, think about that, okay? And now think about what actual intelligence is, okay? So in 2003, they moved to Texas because I refused to move back to Illinois because Illinois was not my home state, and I didn't really have there was not one day in Illinois for an entire 24-hour period that I had any enjoyment. I did not have one 24-hour point in time. I had a weekend in Ohio with who I dated. That was enjoyable, mainly because I wasn't in Illinois, and I was closer to where I was born and raised. I was happier, and then I had to, deal with all that. So there was also Indiana 1999 in that reference. So a different experience, though ironically, 2 good experiences. It was great. Just pointing that out there. It was as it was. And so but that's different. It's not the lifestyle. It was the relationship I was actually in. Though realistically, same thing. I don't have that many relationship aspects in that capacity at all. And I don't have that level of experience in those references, though I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. I don't know. That is what it is. So, 2003, I was dealing with all this stuff and raising 2 children and getting ready to go and start compiling a report in reference to what I could remember regarding 9/11, and then my biological mother and my biological father and my biological little sister decided to move to Texas. And so I started warning all of my neighbors, and I started warning Fort Sam Houston, and I started warning Wilford Hall. Instantly, within the first 2 weeks, I don't know how many warnings I gave that my biological mother, biological father, and biological little sister were moving from Illinois to the state of Texas. And a bunch of people were like, oh, there are just some people that have family problems. Yeah, no. You think, no. I promise. You don't know how, you have no idea how bad. You have no idea. I promise. You want to heed my warnings. I promise. If you heed my warnings, and you could somehow whatever regarding how my biological little sister is, biological mother is, and sometimes my biological father. Yeah, I'm just saying. You'd be smart if you do it that way. However, I cannot make that decision for you. So I gave warnings as best as I could. And so, I made attempts explaining. My ex-sister-in-law, I actually spoke with her a couple of months ago. And yeah, I had explained, my biological mother was like, hey, you're not my dearest. And so, my ex-sister-in-law was like, oh, she can't be that bad. And it's like, yeah, no. Like, no, you don't know. Like, you had no idea. But then again, her eldest daughter might have an understanding in a different capacity. And so that is as it is because of quite a few factors. And it just is as it is. It is as it is. Made attempts. But in comparison, a bunch of people were just, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you see. And it's like, no, I'm fairly certain I do. I put it together and I made attempts, and so over and over and over again, but a bunch of people were just, oh, it's not that big of a deal. That's just how that is. No, that's not the way it's supposed to be. That's not. No. A parent is supposed to actually care about their child. Yeah, and actually want their child's best interests and do what they can to actually assist them in the correct way, what the actual best interests are, not what biases are. Huge difference. Gotta pay attention to those details. So my biological mother one day, after the situations regarding the oak leaf from that, so I had went out to different appointments at Wilford Hall within a 3-week time frame of that situation as to the oak leaf. I informed the Air Force doctors as far as what occurred. The male neurologist, his last name started with an A, if I remember correctly. He had been concerned about a few things, knew about my background and other references, and had made certain recommendations as far as only if absolutely necessary to discuss any further. So I literally talked about it with people I once knew in person, face-to-face in person, very briefly, and then after my neurology appointment, as well as a few other doctor appointments, it was unless absolutely necessary. And so, okay, fine. Well, my biological mother tried to get more information, and it's none of your business. Just leave it alone. Just stop. So then there's 2005 Wilford Hall situation as far as her stirring up needless drama and all that in a hypothetical. So in 2004, my biological mother acknowledged these were her words. So we're just testing your memory. And my response was, who the fuck are you to do that? And my biological mother said, your mommy dearest knows a whole bunch. And I said, I didn't ask you to get involved with my shit. I am the one and only sponsor. And so this is before the oak leaf situation, by the way, that this was brought up. And my biological mother then said, we're just testing, we're testing you, which again, the modern day book and Finding a Silver Lining book, in my book section, you can click the links to purchase my books through my website, www.susanbling.com, which is the same as www.ladydorybell.com, and the links take you to Amazon to purchase those. And my biological mother then says, no, we're just testing, and we wanted to help the Army. She didn't say who we was. She said, we wanted to help the Army because after your head injury, we wanted to help the Army. Now, mind you, she was working at McHenry County Government Center in Woodstock, Illinois. What do you mean? And this is before knowing or remembering or rehearing President Ronald Reagan's quote. What do you mean you wanted to help the Army? And her response was, you don't understand. We wanted to help the Army we have tried to get information from the Army, and so we thought that it was because they're stupid, and so we have been helpful to bring forward the Army, so that way, because you know, those Army people. So in my thoughts, at that point I didn't say my thoughts. So you're translating that to, you think you know how to do things better in the government than the Army does, and you don't like the fact that the Army doesn't discuss stuff with you because you in the government think that you know better when the Army has enough stuff to deal with. You in the government think that they're stupid because you have your bureaucracy, whereas the Army is just straightforward and to the point, and you in the government think that your bureaucracy is what the Army needs in comparison to how the Army just goes and handles stuff and doesn't need any bureaucracy. So this is in the year 2004. My biological mother went to college in the 1960s and 1970s. You can do the math, that is not arithmetic on that. And so she acknowledged not only testing without any legal authority to, emancipated twice, one and only sponsor, there is no one who has any legal authority to involve themselves at all in that capacity whatsoever. Not in any way, not in any shape, and not in any form. She tried to claim, well, because in Texas, if you're married to someone, you can drink alcohol if you're under 21. No, that's not the same at all, whatsoever. One and only sponsor, period and end of story. I don't drink alcohol. Get over it. You cannot utilize that. So we went back, this is the needless problems regarding my biological mother and biological father and biological little sister, thinking that this is the needless crap that I have literally referred to over and over again. They have literally needed to accept the fact that I knew what I was doing before. I've known what I needed to take care of without them. And if they stayed out of my life, this is probably how the Army, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, the Navy, and the Marine Corps, among the CIA, the FBI, Homeland Security, probably all have the same sort of viewpoint, where if civilians that did not sign the dotted line, did not have an approved background check, and the only approval they have is to stay in their lane, in comparison that they feel that they have feelings that matter, and they're so curious as to what the Army is up to, because, you know, they feel that they matter in comparison. And then that, remember, for those who remember, in-person, face-to-face, in-person discussions with me. My biological mother actually believed that in basic training, the stress card was a good idea if the drill sergeant yelled at you too much. And I informed her, when you're in the middle of an actual war fight, that is not how that goes. When you have certain situations, they are not going to be, oh, you have feelings. Oh, okay, so you need to have some time to process. No. We just flew in from whatever galaxy of whatever. You have feelings, though. Oh, no, that's okay. No. You got feelings. You know what? You got it. we will give you a little bit of a timeout. Yes, we will. You go and play with your little toddler toys. You go do that. Yeah, no. They, just in this hypothetical, again, you've got official YouTube videos of mine. You got pictures I have posted. You got videos as far as, you even got film pictures that I have taken. My biological mother's, oh, no, because people need to, excuse me, you remember in the backyard in New Jersey? Guess what? Those didn't care. This was the problem, by the way. My biological mother tried to negotiate with some of the space beings that showed up, and then my mistake, I went and saved her life when they went to go shoot her. My mistake, my bad. I got burned because of that. Because, I got it. It was in my lower back. It hurt so bad. It was really, really badly. It just, but it is what it is. Dealt with it. And so, she wanted to try to explain to them, no, you don't understand. You don't understand. And so because she couldn't handle how they physically looked, in comparison, and she wanted to try to have Patricia as far as whatever, and they're like, no, we don't like Patricia. We don't want Patricia. We don't need Patricia. Like, she doesn't have it at all. Like, she doesn't have it. She won't ever have it. She's not ever going to be capable to have it. Like, that's just the facts. We don't need Patricia. And so then there was a situation, and then after that occurred, there's all sorts of whatever, I guess it's called a UFO. It had landed in an area which is near where the model home was for the Carlton Homes housing development. Landed over there, and they had a hard time. This is the clarification for that. They had a hard time keeping the sod to actually work. Excuse me. They had a very difficult time getting the sod to actually grow because of how many times the UAP, I guess is the more current term, or UFO had landed in that area. That particular model house and then the house next to it had an extremely difficult amount of time getting, they had to use multiple different types of sod to get it to actually, be presentable for the housing and stuff like that. The amount of, it was just constant because of how many times that had landed there. And so my biological mother in this particular situation tried to convince him, and then when one of these whatevers, I don't know how to really describe it, it got really tall, like really, really tall, and like I was in like, I think I was in 3rd or 4th grade, so I was over 6 feet, I know that. Well over, and I'm talking where its belly button was. I'm not even talking like the rest of it. And it's kind of really funny. So it got really, really big as Anna, complained and whined. And then it, kept growing and well, Patricia, and so then it was a weird, it's a weird situation. Just gets down, no, and like not just no, but no, and yelled so loud she rolled, and then she started crying. She's like, but and then when it went to go yell at her again, she's like, wait a minute, I need a minute to compose myself. Yeah, no, so there are these beings She was all, it's stressful. Yeah, so no, that did not care at all. Did not care. Did not. So this is why it's like, yeah, no, they want to do. You can't. So in 2004, my biological mother had acknowledged she had been doing all this stuff, and so I had informed people. There are people throughout San Antonio. There are people throughout DFW. There are people throughout Austin. Spoke with in person, face to face in person. Let them know what she was doing. And a bunch of them, oh, it's not that big of a, no, this is the facts. This is the reality. You know, they're finding a silver lining. What has been capable to be proven as far as that's concerned in genuine truth? Well, here you go. I have a few, like a whole bunch. So, for example, if you were to take, I can literally make this as a joke. If you were to take the amount of events that I attended between the year of 2015 to 2018 year, and in that reference, I had more situations than the events that I went to as a child and a teenager, just in regards of stuff that came out from the sky. That has nothing to do with the number of situations in regards to the Atlantic area of the oceanic waters. There have been Pentagon releases as to different video footage and information and documents, as well as write-ups as to what is now called UAPs, as to what once was called UFOs. There is NASA that has been around for decades, and the U.S. Space Force has been officialized in the year of 2020, and anybody who has ever went for one legal situation, just one, to get one legal situation taken care of, just think of how many pieces of paper would be required to get the U.S. Space Force started. Just think about that. If you have, so like for those who have been in the military, whichever branch of the Army or Air Force or Coast Guard or Marine Corps or Navy, you know how it is to get paperwork done. So there's the U.S. Space Force now. You just think about that. So my biological mother had informed me that she, along with others in the government, when she was working at Woodstock, Illinois, that they thought they could help the Army. And when I informed her she should probably speak with the correct individuals in comparison to thinking she knows any better, her response was, well, why would I do that? Because in order, if you want to actually, again, this is before remembering Ronald Reagan, the President of the United States of America's words, is to, the four scariest words from the government is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. Aside from the number of words, that's what was sad. And so, there's just the reality as far as that's concerned, in comparison. Just saying, just throwing that out there. And so, so where my biological mother, remember, they moved, my biological mother, biological father, biological little sister, if anybody had been told this, other than myself, they claimed that they were moving from Illinois to help me with my son and my daughter. If anybody in the state of Texas and anywhere else where my biological mother and or my biological father and or my biological little sister had said that they were there to help them, Just take a look at what happened in my life between the years of 2003 through 2013. And you tell me whether or not you actually believe that my biological mother, biological father, and biological little sister actually moved in the correct capacities to assist, in comparison to what President of the United States of America, Ronald Reagan, had warned. The scariest words from the government are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help you." Again, I remind you that the pastor from when I was growing up, who was also a chaplain in the Army, had said that my parents biologically were strict. So, just think about that. Yeah. So I have the actual experiences. So in that reference as to my biological mother in that time frame of 2004 also admitted that she wanted to help the Army by telling them names of people when I was in medical hold unit that she felt that I should remember. She had feelings that I should remember her friends that I had not ever met. She acknowledged that these people that she gave names to the Army for when I was in medical hold unit were people that I didn't ever meet because they were from her childhood. They were from her teenage years. They were from when she was in college. They weren't people that I had ever met. Because she wanted to help the Army. So this is how deep this goes. And so whether or not some believe this, I have made attempts in every area as to the truth regarding my childhood, teenage years, biological adult years, and it doesn't matter as far as community. It's been above the ground community, underground scenes, stuff like that, made every attempt possible. My biological mother, why would you think, you don't understand, I'm helping the Army. No, you're not helping the Army. No. She was so excited to move to Illinois, and her favorite employment was working in Woodstock at the McHenry County Government Center in comparison to working at Prudential. She didn't ever want to work at Prudential. She wanted to work in Woodstock, Illinois. I don't know why or what it is about Woodstock, Illinois, but that was where my biological mother, and it was one of those, well, why didn't you just move to Illinois and I could have stayed in New Jersey? How about that? How about, especially with Marine and Science Technology School with the Navy attachment and all that sort of stuff, could have just done that, but instead my biological mother thought that she knew what was best for me and the Army and the Air Force and the Marine Corps, and then she thought she knew how to help everybody. So I made attempts to give warnings, and a bunch of people didn't want to heed my warnings. Yeah, they all thought that they knew better. They thought that they had a smarter viewpoint in comparison. That's because, by the time that certain groups, what she usually would say, which was no different than when I was a child, oh, she's just a child. Oh, well, she had a head injury. Yeah, well, you know what? When you do certain things in comparison to actually being assistive, of course you're going to try to use that. And at some point, and I told her when it came to before 2005, and I was enraged. I was absolutely enraged. I hope that every lie you have ever told
completely comes out. I hope every person that you ever lied to in whatever and every capacity is fully brought forward. I hope that every lie that has ever been spewed from you in any capacity is fully exposed. And I hope that you and each that have been guilty are finally held into accountability. My biological mother started crying. And then, because I acknowledge I was being a dick after that, I lit a cigarette and I said, Amen. Smoked my cigarette. Let freedom ring. And so it's just one of those, those times. Like, there are people who have dealt with helicopter parents, and then there's my biological mother and biological father. And so while they tried to claim, especially Anna, tried to claim that she thought I was lazy. Well, let me give you my schedule in the years of 2002, 2001 and 2002, took care of my son and then later son and daughter. In 2001, as far as that's concerned, I kept myself and my son safe, and then myself, my son, and my daughter safe in 2002. Did all the cooking, cleaning, and yard work as far as when I'm getting into my house. I mowed the lawn. I created all the areas as far as gardening, trimmed the hedges. 1/3 of an acre, by the way, property. 2-story house, 3 bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, 2 eating areas, 2 living areas, 2-car garage, as far as that's concerned. And then I had remodeled the front yard as well as the backyard, except for certain areas, while taking care of 2 dogs on top of my 2 children. And I was capable to get tulips, daffodils, muscari, gladioli, freesia, and irises to grow in the soil, in the ground of the area in the state of Texas, without amending the soil. Just saying. So anyway, that's my skills gardening. Haven't had any enjoyment regarding that since 2010. It's the only thing that I actually enjoyed that didn't have to deal with certain aspects of. But because, there were all these other situations instead. Yeah. But, they thought they knew better in comparison, because I had the nerve to actually go to do work without being annoyed by them. As far as I was concerned. My biological mother and biological little sister didn't stir up needless drama. I could have focused to actually get shit done. As far as that's concerned. Again, though, my biological mother had very much made it abundantly clear that she knew a group of people that were on an entire floor in the World Trade Center that made it out safely in one of the Twin Towers. Because they had been practicing, just in case an airplane flew into one of the Twin Towers. Just in case. Yeah, just in case. Because you never know. You just never know when one of those is going to happen. In the 1990s. Yeah, just made attempts to tell people and inform them, and instead it was, that sounds normal. How does that sound normal to you? When I think about preparation, okay, I've been a runner, so, when I think about preparation, I am not thinking about if an airplane is going to fly in to a over 70-story tall building for one of the small towers. It's not stresses at all whatsoever that I ever had as a child. Just didn't seem like, you know what? I remember doing fire drills at Asher Holmes Elementary School. I remember that. Don't remember ever thinking about that. I just pointed that out there. Just one of those, it must have just slipped my mind as to, you know, I mean, I'm just saying, I don't know how many other people had that as a, just pointing that out there though. So, you know, so after possibly she remembered that she had said that when she was at McHenry County Government Center while I was in my house in San Antonio, well, I let other people know in the area that year. I went around and it was, my biological mother said this. You know, she said that in the year 2001 though. And so from 2001 into 2002, mind you, again, I had been in Wilford Hall and had been answering questions after Anna had said that on the phone when she was at McHenry County Government Center. But you know, she was there to help the Army. Yeah, that's what she said in comparison. Yeah, you just think about that. And so instead, you know, but she also was upset because I assisted Joe Jose to, you know, keep the World Trade Center and World Trade Center Plaza safe. So she felt, you know, she had feelings that she knew better. And so she also had feelings because I had went to save the world. And so she had feelings that she was sad that I went to go save more than just one person. And so she had feelings. And so she'd stir up this needless drama because she wanted whatever, and it was no, there's going to be a point in time where I just won't be there. Because I have been put through enough, I have dealt with enough, and no one can truthfully look at all the aspects of, from my updates in my journal blog, the Ornery PSA, in the years of 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022, as to just those time frames regarding my website, www.susanmeadling.com, the same as www.ladydoribell.com. No one can truthfully look at all of what those updates are in conjunction with the modern day book and finding a silver lining. To ever truthfully ever believe that my biological mother and or biological little sister ever actually cared about me in the correct ways. Because the correct ways are without causing me what I would ever view as needless problems. Where it would be where I could actually go enjoy my life and do what I prefer without what I consider as needless problems. Where I could actually have my recognition for my work in the correct capacities without what I would consider as needless problems. Where I could utilize my finances as through my choices without what I would view as needless problems. Where I could make the decisions without having to argue in any capacity. Whether it is in a lecture, and so for anybody who's ever been upset by anything, you obviously don't know how courtroom hearings go. Whatever your viewpoint is, when there's actual legal arguments to be made. So those are needless problems in my opinion. I don't enjoy that at all. I'd actually prefer to enjoy. This is nothing enjoyable for me. I had what was actually enjoyable in my life. If my biological mother and my biological father and my biological little sister and my ex-in-laws did not, and any connections, did not stir up any needless drama that I would consider as needless drama, I would have actual enjoyment in comparison to the needless strife. I've dealt with this since I was a child and a teenager and a biological adult. Just because I have been capable to does not translate to adding any more stuff. I've already dealt with enough of those types of needless problems, as per what I consider as needless problems. So, where most people have had a childhood that they could actually have fond memories in, well, I had these people who tried to claim that if I just remembered hard enough, maybe I could remember something that I told them back then. That was the prettiest memories I had. So then maybe there are some people who have pretty memories from when they were a teenager. Well, I can't think of any, though I have done some updates. So then as a biological adult. So now in the year 2022, it's one of those, no, I actually have a great idea as to what would actually be where I could actually enjoy my life. This goes back to my website as far as my books, so that way I could actually do what I prefer, which I would actually enjoy. What I had arranged. Not other people involving in those capacities. No, I didn't need certain things. I already dealt with enough. As far as that is. And so while some people might think that they're helpful, well, yeah, okay. Yeah, no. Not for what would actually be relaxing for me. So today is the 4th of July in 2022. I have made every attempt possible so that way I could just actually enjoy my life. And in the capacities where I make the choices without having to constantly fight in any verbal aspect or argument and that. No, where I could actually go and in the capacities of, I had each and every time when I have made everything perfect for myself to then go to actually invite people. Instead, what I've dealt with is a bunch of needless problems. So, in regards of my scuba diving, I had created my house to a perfect aspect, fully. Instead, the stuff that occurred regarding McCoy Elementary School. Instead of in 2009, that's 2009. So you have Wilford Hall in 2005, because I refused to speak with my biological mother any further after I had spoken with officials from Wilford Hall. Because again, remember 2001. So I spoke with who I spoke with, and my biological mother felt that she needed to know what she did not need to know, and she wanted to help where there was nothing for her to do. She was specifically told to take a step back as well. And when she tried and I refused, then in the San Antonio pagan community, which I had spoken with a few people about it, again, I stopped speaking about it because of the officials that I spoke with at Lackland in Wilford Hall. Multiple appointments, especially at that time. That needless problem regarding my biological mother. That needless problem, as per what I view, needless problems, except that she is a needless problem. Because my biological mother, Anna Louise Lally Hom, has just been nothing of any assistance in any capacity, in any correct way, because she thinks that it's just a phase, and then one time of looking at one thing, all of a sudden, she thinks she knows in comparison. She doesn't. I haven't ever had the luxury of actually relaxing to what I would consider as relaxing, because every time I've actually worked to get to that point, that set of needless problems as to what I consider as needless problems. So instead, it is one of those, I know what I know. And if people actually would speak with me, but because my biological mother, biological little sister have wanted to feel important. They've had these feelings where they wanted people to speak with them because of riding coattails in comparison, which is not helpful. Well, it is in that Ronald Reagan president warning sort of way, in comparison, as proven. So that in 2005, my biological father was like, no, have Anna go with you and da-da-da-da. I don't want her at all. I don't. She doesn't listen. She doesn't do as she's told. You know how she complains about every aspect? Well, it's the exact same. She does it, so when, in reference to Wilford Hall, as soon as one started crying and whining, and then in the spoke, for those who remember how Wilford Hall was, in 2005, there was the entrance where it is now, and then you drove around and you went to where the gate used to be opened, and that was the front entrance at that time. And then if you look to the middle area in comparison to the upgrades, there was a side door that only if you had a specific type of ID card could you go in that way, but there was a smoking hut there. That would be the location my biological mother decided to start crying and throwing a childish temper tantrum on a military installation, and then tried to hand me her cell phone so that way I would talk with my biological father instead of her, because she wanted a stress card moment. In comparison to the irony of how she is about perception, and she was on a military installation. And then when I refused to do anything, then she went and did a toddler move and went and stomped off while crying and throwing her hands in the air. And I was not dealing with it, and so Wilford Hall, yes, because I knew what I would have done physically to her. So I have a little bit of bias from my childhood. She had already acknowledged a bunch of stuff literally that week, as far as that was concerned, as well as that year and the year before, and I was done with my biological mother being that stupid. So I just walked off and went to my neurology appointment, and instead of the male, it was a female instead. A stupid, light blue-ish and silver face fucking cell phone by Nokia. For that stupid twat hoe that's my biological mother. That has been nothing but an annoyance for decades in comparison. So, if she wouldn't be such a needless problem, and what I consider as a needless problem, it'd be great. For the first time, when in Carrollton, Texas, I actually was capable to enjoy my life. I was actually capable to get work accomplished without being annoyed. Just the same in regards of, despite the situation, as to my house in San Antonio. But since they did not ever think especially my biological mother and biological little sister, since they didn't ever think, ever, as to any capacity of actually being intelligent, that had been the problem the whole time. So then I gave warnings in multiple areas. And so they thought, and this is what they confessed to, they thought because before my head injury, I was really good at puzzles. I could put a 1,000-piece puzzle together in less than 2 hours. And I'm talking tiny pieces. Well, after my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000 and the subarachnoid hemorrhage damage, well, they tried to claim what they tried to claim in references to the damages caused because of my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. Those cognitive test blocks that are red on 2 sides, beige or white on 2 sides, and half on 2 sides, probably, hypothetically, I don't know what the highest number of cubed blocks I got to, but you know what? They're not 1,000 fucking piece motherfucking puzzle set. So maybe, just maybe, my biological mother can stop being such an ignorant moron and accept the fact that the damages that were caused during my basic training as to when I was in the Army are what they are. And that is not the same as the rest of my life. So if the needless problems, as I would consider, wouldn't be needless problems, and I could actually enjoy my life the way I'd actually prefer, I would probably be in a better mood. Hypothetically, maybe, just maybe, if I didn't have to deal with that sort of stuff as to what I consider as needless problems. Maybe, just maybe. And so while they thought that my son and my daughter meant nothing to me, no, my son and my daughter meant the world to me. Because of my family, in comparison. So while they thought what they thought of themselves, instead, so I did the best I could for my son and my daughter. Despite what needless problems were needlessly stirred up by individuals who knew nothing about what was actually needed correctly as to what I knew. So if they did not do this garbage as to all those needless situations, as to what I knew was needless problems, and if I actually had stuff taken care of in the capacity where I had actually arranged, there's multiple times in comparison. I haven't ever put into writing, ever, as to quite a few things, as to what my needs are, what my preferences are. I've known better. So I've worked to be capable to actually do things in the capacity which I knew was best. So when it comes to what was my home, well, at that time, this is 2022, that was 2009. That was then. This is now. Huge difference. That was back in 2009. This is 2022. So this is why you ask me, in the capacities that are actually correct to do so. You do not ask other people regarding my work, as far as what my plans are. You do that in the correct etiquette ways if you actually need to know. If you actually need to know, not you feel that you need to know. Huge difference. Huge. And so in 2013, after what had all transpired, after everything that had occurred, I received an email from my biological mother because of how she had been, and I was done. Yes, happy Independence Day. I don't ever want you involved with my work, my books, my experiences, my website, my work. Everything that I have worked on, my scuba diving, my stuff, my business, my finances, my Medal of Honor art project, my Medal of Honor art project artwork, my work, my finances, my whatever I choose, mine. Don't without my permission. And I have not given my permission ever. That's the most important factor. That needless bureaucracy of where you try and you try and you try, and that is not how you ever get the sensation where I would ever view that I would be wanted in a positive way. You would fail massively to think that that would be a way where I would have that sensation of being wanted in a positive way. If you do things in the way that my biological mother and biological little sister would do, no. That is not how you would ever get the sensation from me that it was in a positive way. That's just the facts. So while they most likely, oh, we know what it would be to, no, you don't. You haven't, ever. Because when I've made every attempt in truth to what would be best, because I actually know what is best, in comparison, what I actually understand is best, and in comparison, what I comprehend is best. Just in regards of my house that was a home in Carrollton in 2009. In 2009, that's the facts. So if instead of what other people thought that they knew better of, I had created my house, which was my home, did all of the work regarding getting the construction completed, so that way I could actually, in the year of 2009, make that announcement. Maybe some people could have seen the work that I had arranged and say, back in 2009, I knew what I was doing. You know, truthfully, in comparison to what other people assumed of me. Don't assume. So, you know, just pointing that out there. I worked to actually have what I needed correctly. I actually achieved it. And then instead of what I actually had worked for, other people thought that they knew better when they didn't. Because they didn't ever ask me in person, face to face in person, with etiquette and respect. To this day, that has not been accomplished at all. There hasn't been one phone call that's an actual phone call in truth, as even a lesser of lesser minimum. that has ever actually asked me, in truth, because of whatever assumptions. So maybe, just maybe, at some point in time, people can actually accept the reality that they made choices because of their immaturity this entire time. So yeah, I've had a whole bunch of experiences, and one experience that I haven't ever had, especially long term, is being capable to enjoy things and relax to the way that I actually prefer. To where I prefer, how I prefer, with the ways that I actually prefer. Not in any capacity that I have ever put into actual aspects of writing. Because this is 2002. Yeah. So in comparison to what happened in 2000 or 2002, this is 2022. I don't know if people need to start realizing that maybe that's what the problem is. That after the year 2000, they just heard 2000 in comparison to the number. So do people have to literally walk around sounding like a talking calculator? Do people actually, to be capable to understand that this is the year of 2022, do they actually have to hear the numbers 2022 instead of 2022 or 2022? Is that what actually needs to occur? Because if that actually needs to occur, for people to understand the length of time that I have made attempts repeatedly, because maybe they have been so desensitized by reading things online that that is to the level of points that they need to actually recognize. This is 2022. This is the year 2022. So 2000 is when my head injury happened and I was in a coma from my basic training time. 2000, I was taken off of a military installation and then the justice of the peace situation. 2001 is when I was pregnant with my son and went through labor and delivery and dealt with my ex-in-laws regarding Georgia. 2002, that subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain was still there, gave birth to my daughter. 2003, there was no one that actually assisted me, but my biological mother, biological father, and biological little sister thought that they could help. 2004, there's my backyard in San Antonio. While still having had the subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain and made attempts. 2005, Wilford Hall. 2004 and 2005 is the first separation. 2006, the claim about IRR as far as my dead ex-husband now. As far as those situations, as 2007 would be when the paperwork actually was found to be signed, and then Iraq, and then the whole thing. 2008, the chief warrant officer tree about the JCPenney pictures, as far as Grandpa Nichols' rack, and all those situations regarding the 3 firearms in General Gilman's office after all the other stuff, while he tried to complain that it was more a transition unit now in comparison to medical hold unit. When that individual literally did not have the common sense that I was sitting in his office and had been taken off the military installation years before by the individual in regards to the aspects of that CID situation. But he had a temper tantrum about the words medical hold unit, compared to Warrior Transition Unit. While he failed to pay attention to what was directly in front of his eyes at that moment before his temper tantrum to those 3 individuals with the firearms and the Bronze Star. And then the rest of the stuff as far as my house, that was my home in Carrollton, 2009er, that would be when my 26 scuba diving certifications that I earned, that I took care of all the work that I took care of on my own, by myself, without anybody's assistance at all as to what I handled personally. And when I made attempts to actually get stuff taken care of and temper tantrums in regards to the civilian recreational lazy scuba diver sector because of law enforcement, regarding scuba dive law enforcement, yeah, because of my work. But you know, if they're guilty of doing certain things, that must be a guilty conscience in comparison to actually thinking about my work regarding my scuba diving and my childhood, as far as I was concerned. Yeah, because common sense. 2010. The stuff as far as the Fort Worth Zoo, after all of those other needless problems hypothetically associated with my biological little sister, my biological mother, and or my biological father, and or my ex-in-laws, in comparison with their associates, or RICO type of situations, hypothetically. 2011, Irving. While dealing with all that stuff, of course, doing the best I could for my son and my daughter and all the other stuff. 2012, a bunch of other crap. And then 2013, as far as that. So, you know, go think about that. So if that's what you've needed to free your mind, instead of hearing the year in 2000, 2001, 2002, because maybe it's because of the zeros, there's 2 zeros and, you know, there's no comma. Is that what the problem is? That your intellect didn't put that together because there wasn't a comma between the numbers? And instead in 1990 whatever, in 1980 whatever, is that the intellectual default on that? Is that where individuals have needed to so do they have to put a comma? But you can't do that because it's a year. But hey, now you have 2020, or are you going to go 2022? Because if you go 2022 in comparison to the past 22 years, if it has taken people that are either older than me or didn't go from college algebra with trigonometry and calculus to 2nd grade math, if it literally took you to the year of 2020, or if you have just been all, well, 2020 and then 2021 instead of 2021, or in conjunction, this is the year 2022. Do people understand that as 2022, or is it the 2022? Is that where the intellectual disconnect is? Because if that is, just think about what I've dealt with from all of those other factors instead of accepting that I actually have been capable. Sure, I deal with headaches. Sure, I deal with migraines. And after all of the prior 22 years, yeah, all of those combined situations, such as, you know, being in labor twice, and what hormonal changes occur when you're in labor? Oh, and that subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain. So those individuals who get upset because of disability and you can't tell, I don't owe you that. I don't owe you any explanation. But since what's good for the goose is good for the gander, well then all of you can be just as open from now on when it comes to medical. Because that's what you should have been doing. I guess that's what you've been wanting, right? This whole time? For yourselves, though. I've been honest. So, 2022, or 2022. So, I got made fun of for how I write the calendar date, because that's a military thing. Maybe that jolt might have assisted to wake a few up. So, in order to do certain things such as reviewing space factors or what have you in regards of actual scuba diving compared to recreational scuba diving or lazy scuba diving, huge difference, huge difference. Something to take in consideration. And also, you know, I've done the best I could to be appreciative. I don't have to verbalize it because of how I am. I do verbalize it here and there, but because of my pain levels, so fine, in the time frame, I am glad that I'm capable to do my official YouTube channel. There are certain other factors in that reference, but you know, yeah, social media has been assistive. Some ways. However, that doesn't replace life in person, face to face in person, at all. So when people are actually thankful and grateful, they do, yes, I understand some do what they actually can. But you have to do it in keeping in mind a few things. And so when you purposefully stir up what is considered as needless problems, such as in this particular reference regarding myself, I do not enjoy arguing. So people who have that viewpoint of, oh, people from New Jersey. No. Most New Jerseyans actually really don't like that. That's New York Cityers. New York Cityers prefer arguing. And people who prefer to live in New York City are more that way. New Jerseyans are not. New Jerseyans will only argue if they have to. And they usually do it begrudgingly because they really don't like being bothered. They have enough to deal with because everybody from each of the East Coast states usually goes through New Jersey and doesn't ever take in consideration the stuff that goes on, yet they want to bitch about the tolls that they have to pay. And that's just the way it is. So in comparison to being appreciative of anything that New Jerseyans do, there are all these tolls because you wouldn't have a bunch of stuff without New Jersey. And so the fees are so that way, you know, you acknowledge correctly. So even though you might complain or whatever, it doesn't change the fact that the fees are the fees. If you actually appreciate stuff instead. So the fees are the fees. So there's my book section, that reference. And by the way, if you were to combine the entire fees of my Amazon books for one person to purchase, for all of them individually, you can find the links on my website, www.susanmeeling.com, which is the same as www.ladydoribell.com, in my book section for the Kindle versions, as well as the physical versions, whichever one, for all of them combined. That is less than if you were to drive on the Garden State Parkway and or the New Jersey Turnpike both ways from either New York or Maryland or Delaware. That would take literally 3 months if you had to do it that way, regarding whichever tollway to get from. And so that's just the reality. That's how many people that I've actually known in person, face to face in person, before you take in consideration the 5 boroughs or the World Trade Center or the World Trade Center Plaza, or Pittsburgh or Lancaster or Philadelphia. Because that's just the facts. So while people think in other areas that tollways are for luxury, in New Jersey, tollways are because you can't have anything without us. And since you have gone through our state in the ways that you have, these are the reasons why you have to pay tolls. Because you have disrespected our lands. You have disrespected our people. You have been arrogant as far as quite a few situations. You think that you're better than New Jerseyans because of whichever area you come from. You make fun of our stuff, and yet you can't live without our stuff. And so we, as New Jerseyans, had to put in tollway systems because while you went and threw trash out your windows, went and did what you did as far as the different areas regarding the different factors, we had to pay to go and get it taken care of. So that's why our taxes are lower, but everybody who drives through New Jersey, it is a mandatory payment as far as the tolls are concerned. And you can't get out of those tolls. And that's why. Because for decades, New Jerseyans have dealt with all of that. Then we dealt with being blamed for what other people did. And so what we did as New Jerseyans was unwilling to deal with that any further. And so no, it wasn't ever for luxury. No. The tollways in New Jersey are not for luxury at all. The tollways in New Jersey are for all of those people who have ever been born somewhere else to pay. And people who were born and raised in New Jersey, yeah, we can go in different areas and get, have to reacquaint and all that sort of stuff. But we don't go to pay the tolls as best as we can because we were born and raised there. If we travel through after having lived in different areas, we don't mind paying the tolls. What we do mind is when we forget. Because I know I can't be the only one. And so that's different because we know our own. We take care of that in comparison. So we have that etiquette and respect to actually make sure stuff is taken care of as best as possible. So people who have complained about the toll roads, but then go to our state because less in taxes, if you go to New York City, you're always going to pay a toll. That's just the facts. Same thing if you go from New York City into New Jersey, you're always going to pay a toll. Whether you pay the ferry toll or you pay the whichever state area toll, because we got really tired of dealing with certain types of situations. I'm going to guesstimate is what some people who have family lineage that dates backwards to earlier time frames to New Jersey could say. And so while other people complained about our areas, well, we wouldn't have to do so much work if people had etiquette and respect. That's how that goes. If people didn't know. And then, similar to my biological mother and biological little sister, when you think you know how to tell us how to do our stuff, or you stir up needless drama, as we view as needless dramas regarding New Jerseyans, no. That's because of your times. So my biological little sister spent more time in Illinois and the state of Texas than she ever did in New Jersey. She's not a New Jerseyan. She's my biological little sister. People that spent more time going back and forth between New York City to, the ritzy areas in comparison to the boroughs, and there is a difference, obviously. There's a difference in New Jerseyan, by far. So yeah, I grew up going different areas. Mike had business and I went with. But my home state is New Jersey, always has been, always will be. And so those people in the state of Texas who had a problem with me flying my New Jersey flag while still being respectful and having the Texas flag equal, but underneath the American flag, I, at the very minimum, had etiquette and respect. Obviously, despite whatever your pop culture viewpoint is of the state of New Jersey. And our state is older than your state. And our state is one of the original 13 colonies, especially for those into history. And our state has colleges that people actually want to go to and don't settle for. Our state is close to major metroplex and metropolitan areas with all sorts of historical work and artwork. Our state has amounts of museums that assist, and our state is the line where everybody that speaks in truth will acknowledge you can't get anything without New Jersey at all. There's inspiration everywhere. It's the life everybody asked for, because New Jersey is just New Jersey. Just the facts. And so, others who think whatever they think, because, Anna wanted to live in New York City. She didn't want, I don't know how she'd want to live in New York City, but she wanted to live in New York City in comparison to being happy in New Jersey. Mainly because I'm going to guesstimate she thought it was less walking. Which, if anybody ever thought about that, who's lived in New York City, yeah, sure, there's less walking if you have a car or you're willing to take a taxi or whatever. Yeah, you just think about that common sense. Or lack thereof. So, thanks for tuning in and listening to my soapbox today. However, that's how the independence of the United States of America, in a different capacity, fought for independence, proved to be capable to. And by the way, my scuba dive gear, I purchased it, as a used, which is an irony, a used military, British military, specifically, UK, British military depth gauge computer. They have, I don't know who's supposed to, well then there's that, I do apologize, by the etiquette standards, if that's the aspect of regarding because of the British military depth gauge computer. I suppose I acknowledge I did not take that into consideration as to the particular time frame of 2009 announcement, which not that I got to actually do so. However, I will acknowledge that if there's any aspects of, because I will say, if a bunch of people from Britain were like, excuse you, because 44 was in office, and then anybody was like, oh yeah, the rest of, no, because that would translate to, if that was, well then, I don't know. Because I'm medically retired from the Army, so Britain. This is the United States, for those who understand that reference. It's the United States of America, it's not Britain. Damn it. Well, there is the fact that the Prince of Wales has a dual citizenship. He's the Prince of Wales to Britain and a citizen of the United States of America because he married Meghan Markle, as far as that's concerned. And if I remember from the reports, California, it's a lot of ports. It's a lot of ports to the United States of America. Yeah. And so that's an irony regarding PADI being on that side of the United States of America about the truth and my scuba diving. It's a big, interesting viewpoint at this particular point in time. And so I do not know how that is done. As far as I have had the Skype as far as the one group of people that I have met, well, two specifically on Skype through FetLife, which has British associations because of Canada. And so I don't know how that goes. I don't know. That's a legal situation. I don't know, but I acknowledge that I had a British depth gauge computer because I got it from the shop, and because some guy came in and all that. But as I was concerned, and I had acknowledged that the Jewish Medical Journal and then the British Medical Journal and the UK Medical Journal in regards to scuba diving and headache situations. So I don't know how that goes. I think is that UN discussions or is that NATO discussions? I don't know. Is that Geneva? Is that Geneva Convention discussions? Because I don't know how that goes. I don't know, but then, I don't know where the pieces were made for the military depth gauge computer. So some of that could have been in Switzerland, Sweden, I think maybe Japan, some pieces. So that's an irony. So there's that. So you guys have a good day. Happy Independence Day 2022 2022. I wonder if that has to do with finances, how some people look at years as finances because of that in comparison. That's why it's, if that's the case, of 2022 instead of 2022. I don't know. Anyway, I shall end this particular official YouTube video of mine. Make sure to subscribe to my official YouTube channel, like my official YouTube videos. If you're gonna leave a comment, make sure to have etiquette and respect. Go to my website, www.susanmidling.com, which is the same as www.ladydorybell.com. Look through my journal blog, The Ornery PSA, and go to my book section and click on the links to purchase my books through Amazon. And you have a good day. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, save us, that star-spangled banner yet wave. Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Happy Independence Day 2022. The 4th of July 2022.